these sets going?
TV sets were going in everywhere, from 2,000 tri-state sets in 1948 to almost 100,000 by 1953. But viewers from Maine to Iowa were tuning into shows from and about this city. Live coverage of New York's parades, New York's hotspots, New York's nightclubs.
Miss Leela Lounsbury of the Association of Junior Leagues of America, sitting with Richard G. Chumley Jones. He is chairman of the floor committee of the Humane Society Tea Dance. Here is the famous financier, Mr. C. Herbert Appleby.
WCBS brought Cafe Society right to your coffee table. The sophisticated and the not so sophisticated.
Hello, neighbor. This is Bill Adams. Tonight you'll meet your neighbor from Brooklyn who says,
I'm Sadie Hertz from Brooklyn. I'm comical.
You'll meet a gentleman from Manhattan who says,
I shot my neighbor 5,000 times.
And you'll meet a war veteran from New Brunswick, New Jersey, who says,
I'm Bob Hosel, and I have the grandest neighbors in the world.
The talk show was being invented, and so was the situation comedy, but always with a New York accent.
On the composition of the letter. So wait just a minute. 1 minute. Yoo-hoo! Mrs. Kramer! Mrs. Kramer!
20 years before Mary Tyler Moore hit the scene, Gertrude Berg had an empire all of her own. She wrote, produced, and starred in The Goldberg.
Thank you, Violet.
Welcome to East Tremont Avenue.
Even quiz shows owed their appeal to New York City. What's My Line creator, Mark Goodson, recalls the occasional case of the missing mystery guest.
We get a call 5 minutes before the show, 5 minutes before the show is about to go on the air. And they'd say, he can't come, he didn't make the plane.
Judging from the applause, I take it that you are a performer?
Don't forget, in those days, New York had all these clubs. You'd run to the Stork Club, you'd run to Billy Reed's Little Club, you'd run to the Copa, and he'd come back with somebody in hand and just stick them right on there. You gotta say, what am I doing here?
Have you done serious dramatic parts?
Oh, yeah.
It was a chance to watch elegant, sophisticated New Yorkers exchange dialogue.
But all the witty banter paled next to the homespun appeal of this man, Arthur Godfrey.
Here it is Wednesday night again, and I'm back on television.
His talent was nothing you could put your finger on. He was a person on the air who knew how to handle time all by himself.
Andy Rooney was one of Godfrey's writers.
3 shows. And we would give him material, most of which he threw out. His genius was establishing some relationship with either the audience or someone in his own cast, and chatted with them, made small talk, absolutely spontaneous.
Did you ever try that?
Yes.
You can even smell it through the bar. Oh, boy, is it wonderful. Look out for it.
Godfrey was a phenomenon. Starting with a local show on Channel 2, he became so popular, he was on the network every morning and 2 nights a week. Nobody in the history of television has ever occupied as much airtime. Yet it was little more, really, than vaudeville.
Hello, hello, hold my show, will make you forget your blue.
You wonder what it was that made him so attractive to so many people. Anytime you offer them the suggestion of friendship, even though they know it's all coming over a wire or through the air, there is a warmth that grows. And the person at home feels this warmth and feels somewhat less lonesome. And this was the talent that Godfrey had. For that brief time while he was on the air, they were not as lonely as they had been before he came on.
Television, for many people, became a companion as the broadcast day extended well into the night. In 1951, WCBS initiated one of the longest-running traditions in television.
Will you come to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Watching The Late Show.
The Late Show would soon be followed by the Late Late Show, and even the Late 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 Show. The box proved so alluring, it didn't matter what hour of the day it was on, even dawn. WCBS offered free college courses in conjunction with NYU. Sunrise Semester was so popular that in the first week it was on, bookstores across the city sold out the complete works of William Shakespeare. Classics in the morning, contemporary drama at night. This was the beginning of the golden age of television.
It wasn't very golden. It was chaotic. It was very exciting because nobody knew enough about it to say no. So you could try anything.
Before he directed Serpico, 12 Angry Men, and Dog Day Afternoon, Sidney Lumet directed shows such as You Are There, hosted by a young announcer from Washington, D.C.
We have word that the Senate is about to convene. We take you now to Capitoline Hill in Rome. All things are as they were then, except you are there. It's 9 o'clock in the morning here in Rome.
The premise was that we were going to cover any historic event with modern news techniques. So I know it sounds ridiculous, but it really was.
Pardon me. Can you tell us why Caesar hasn't gone down to the Senate chamber today?
I asked him not to.
On a day like this?
Some of them get quite funny, and some of them, like anything else, hold up quite well. Walter's sense of authority got us over this ridiculous premise. I don't know if the show would have been as successful as it was without another anchorman.
But in the days before anchormen would become national icons, the news department was still tiny.
The program was then called Douglas Edwards with the News, and there were 9 people working here. And I don't mean 9 people working on the broadcast. I mean the entire staff of CBS TV News consisted of 9 people. The evening news was only on 3 nights a week, on the absolute certain knowledge that it took 2 days to put a 15-minute news broadcast together. There was no way of doing it faster than 2 days. So it was pretty primitive stuff.
But inventive, nonetheless. To cover the coronation of Queen Elizabeth, they shot film of the ceremony in London, put it on a plane with a laboratory, developed that film over the Atlantic, then had live cameras waiting here at the airport.
Joe DeBona and the Thunderbird will come right up here, right to this spot where we are standing, and bring the film to be delivered into the hands of one of our technicians, and the film will be immediately threaded into the projectors, which are located in a building right to our right, very close by, and at that moment, you and I and all of us will have an opportunity to see, for the first time, the coronation scenes in London today.
But by the next election, television was finding out what it could do faster and better than anyone else.
Sifting out the reports and trying to make some sense out of them, and as we do tonight, we have some new figures in on the popular vote. Let's go again now to our UNIVAC corner and get from Doug Edwards the latest predictions of that electronic marvel.
Red hot off of our big electronic abacus, Walter, the very latest UNIVAC presidential prediction. For
the election of 1956, this was state-of-the-art. Television wasn't afraid to spend the big bucks. Sometimes.
Now, to get a little better picture of the hurricane itself, let's go over to another map. This is the way the hurricane looks this morning.
The weather was very simple in those days. So, what it really consisted of was, I remember going to the telephone, and I would call the United States Weather Department, and this would be for, like, say, the 11 o'clock weather, and we were on, like, around 11:10 p.m. or something like that. And so they'd pick up the telephone, and I'd say, you know, who I was, and I'd say, you know, what's the weather report for tomorrow? And that they would tell me the weather.
And that became your nightly forecast. But not all the predictions were even that reliable. For the World Series of 1955, Channel 2's young sportscaster could have made a few calls himself.
Pitching can make the difference in a World Series, and I think it will in this one. I'll take the Yankees in 6 games.
The Brooklyn Dodgers took it in 7, and Jim McKay found another job. Then there were the kid shows. Everyone's favorite babysitter, Cobb's Corner.
I see a mist, a heavy mist before my eyes.
Lucky Pup. And one of the first produced by WCBS, Mr. I Imagination, starring Paul Tripp.
I don't know if you're old enough to remember the theme song. Meet me, Mr. I Imagination, the man with the magic reputation.
Did I hear you wish to go where you think you cannot go? Just ask me, Mr. I Imagination. Okay, anybody want to make a wish? No. Oh, hold it. Let's see. I think I'll take Alan. Alan, you can make your wish first.
Gee, I sure wish I could be a big league baseball player.
Big baseball player. Well, now let's see.
This show was so successful, it went on the network and ran in the same time slot now occupied by 60 Minutes.
And we discovered that 55% of our viewers were children and 45% adults, which made it wonderful. Of course, the problem with that was you'd go to a restaurant, and if you lit a cigarette, kids would come up to me, he's not supposed to do that. Or I'd have a drink. The parents would kind of look disapproving. It was years before anybody dared tell me a dirty story.
You made a wish, now concentrate. I know you won't have long to wait. Here comes a feller I know who is sure to make your dream come true.
If television could make dreams come true, it could also bring us our nightmares. Mobster Albert Anastasia was rubbed out in the barber shop of the Park Sheraton Hotel. And Times Square paused good-naturedly one summer afternoon for the unthinkable.
General, what are some of the problems you can expect after an A-bomb or H-bomb attack in a city of this size?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not prepared to answer it now because...
There was no such thing as local news in the 50s. What happened in New York was news for the whole country. And gradually, CBS cameras began moving out of the city, sending back live images of things we'd never seen before.
And now let's recount very quickly in these last 2 minutes before this blast goes off just what you are going to see. Out there, some 7 miles north of us here...
In footage not seen since 1953, Walter Cronkite anchored the live coverage of an A-bomb test in the Nevada desert.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Television was innocently searching for new images to show. 5 a.m. Pacific time, 8 a.m. back in New York. This was the morning news. As the city was changing, growing taller and spreading to the suburbs, TV became the electronic campfire that unified New York.
WCBS TV, Channel 2.
That people gathered around every night for news of the world.
It will not be seen
And
today.
stories about a showbiz couple who lived on East 68th Street.
Ricky, this is it.
This is it. When 44 million people watched this episode of I Love Lucy, they saw the birth of the television generation. The baby boomers, who would soon discover their own heroes on television.
Close your eyes and I'll kiss you.
Ed Sullivan brought the Beatles to New York. CBS gave them to the world.
Television is more popular than Jesus.
But the Beatles were not the only revolutionaries that would find their way into our living rooms.
The last battle will be fought in the capital. You can be sure.